Alrighty, this is the final video in this mini-series and we're going to finish the closeboard fence and take a look at what the whole project cost. The feather edge pails go on pretty quickly, but there's a bit to know before you get started. The pails are cut from a single 1-inch thick board sawn through the middle at an angle, creating two pails tapering from roughly 30mm down to roughly 8mm. So when you're buying, you'll often see them labelled as 22mm 2EX. This manufacturing process often leaves a rougher side with the saw mark striations where it's been cut through and a better looking side, so it's worth sorting through your pails if there is one side of your fence that you want to look better than the other. I saved the best pails where the cut was really clean for my double gate where I want both sides to look good. There are different widths of pails available, usually 100, 125 or 150mm. I personally like the look of wider boards and I feel the same way about flooring, the wider the better, but because my fence changes angles a lot, thinner boards will help me with those changes of direction, so with both of these factors in mind, I went for the middle option, 125mm. So your very first board starts with the thicker edge and then the next board sits on top at an angle, and then you work your way along the fence in the same fashion. The overlap should be 25mm, which reduces the width of the visible pail to 10cm for my 125mm pails. To work out how many pails you need, measure the length of your fence in meters and multiply by these numbers dependent on the width you're using, and then add maybe 5% of the total for any unusable or broken pails you receive. But why have an overlap at all? It's because wood expands and contracts over the seasons, especially outdoors. But since seeing is believing, check out my potting table. When I made it, I butted the boards tightly together, but the dry spring we've had has created some pretty wide gaps, so overlapping the fence pails prevents these gaps from appearing on your fence and playing peekaboo with your neighbour. To allow this movement, we want only one nail per board per Arris rail, and the optimal place for the nail is here, about 3cm from the thicker edge. If we were to nail in the centre, it's unsupported, so the board is likely to crack when driving the nail in. Here, where the board is thinner, the nail may just go all the way through, and if we nailed here, we'd use the same number of nails, but each board would be nailed twice, which would prevent that movement and potentially cause the pails to buckle. We know what spacing we want and where to nail, so to make this a quick, repeatable process, we need to make a jig. I made mine out of some scrap bits, the block butts up to the previous board, and then the space between the block and the end of the jig is 10cm, so that gives me the spacing. I added this bit on top to point to where I wanted to nail, but I realised I'd need 3 hands, one each to hold the pail, the jig, and the nail gun, so instead I just got my eye in as to where I needed to nail. And while we're talking about hands, which side of the fence should you start from? The left or the right? Nearly all my dexterity is in my right hand, my left I relegate to holding and carrying things, so it makes sense for me to go from right to left so my arms aren't crossing over. The reverse might be the case if you're left-handed, of course. If your concern is the aesthetics of your fence, another consideration is which direction you want the pails to face. One direction looks quite smooth and the other more jagged. I quite like the jagged look, but I won't see the fence, so this doesn't really matter for mine. Then there was a final factor for my fence, which is that we'll be opening the left side of the double gates most often, and my single gate has hinges on the left side too. So I want the thicker, stronger side of the pail to overlap the gates, which also means I need to work from right to left. So I'll start at this end and then work my way to here. One other choice with the pails is whether to opt for the slightly more expensive brown stained ones versus the green, and this goes for capping rails and gravel boards too. Both are treated, but the brown stained ones will resist silvering for longer, but with either option you'll need to stain every few years. I went for green as they're cheaper and I'm okay with the fence silvering. To attach the pails, I'm using a nail gun. This is one of those tools that I've been dying to have a go with, but they're pretty pricey, so I decided to hire one on this occasion. I went for a Makita one, but the tool hire company sent me the Paslode IM350 first fix nail gun, which is an upgrade, but they gave me the Makita gas and nails. They said they were compatible. The nails are collated, i.e. glued together. They're 50mm long and galvanized to prevent them from rusting. There are stainless steel nails available, which are even more resistant to rust, but the downside is they stay very shiny and they're very easy to see on the fence. The nails slide into the chamber, the battery goes in, and then the gas canister fits in at the back. So let's do this step by step. I orientated my pails with the good side facing out and the thicker edge on the right. I then stood them atop the gravel board and used my jig to space them correctly. I think you could make a good argument for having a much longer jig, or another idea is to make a smaller one and put a string through it, hang it around your neck, and that'll save you from putting it down and picking it up all the time. But mine worked well enough. By depressing the nozzle of the nail gun, the gas comes out and then you can fire the nail. Every few pails you'll want to check that they're still in plumb with the spirit level and make any adjustments as necessary. When approaching a change of direction or the end of the gate, something like that, it's best to stop around 5 or 6 pails before and then check the spacing for the rest of the pails. If, for example, your last board ends up being 30mm too long, it looks much better to spread that out over 6 boards, reducing the spacing by 5mm each, than it is to have one much thinner pail which will look out of place. To cut the tops of the pails, I'm using the counter rails. These are just 1 by 2 inch treated timber which act to stabilise the top of the fence and act as something for the capping rails to attach to later. I ran a pencil line across the top of the rail and then cut to that line freehand using a circular saw. For the tricky bits above a post where the circular saw couldn't fit, I used a jig or handsaw to finish it off. For obstacles like this tree, I had to scribe the pails either side of the trunk to its contours. You can use a scrap piece of wood, drag it along the trunk with a pencil on the other side, marking your pail along the way, but after staring at the problem for a few minutes, I came up with a more accurate method. I clamped the pail into plumb with the nearest edge touching the trunk, and then measured the widest gap, which was at the top, about 7.5 centimetres. I could then go up the pail marking 7.5 centimetres from the trunk at regular intervals. I then freehanded a line between the marks I'd made and cut the shape with a jigsaw. Then when attaching the pail, I could set it back about 1 centimetre from the trunk so it has some room to grow. To cut the top around the tree so it looks like a continuous slope, I can't use a counter rail or a straight edge, so instead I used a string line. I got it taut and then pinged it against the trunk a few times to get it straight. And then I drew a line on the pails as best I could, using the string line as a reference. And it came out pretty well, I think. Behind the fence here, the vegetation is really thick, so I couldn't get behind to cut the tops off. Fortunately though, the majority of it is level at the top, so I can cut the pails to length beforehand. The thing about video is it's very easy to make your project look like it went off without a hitch, and maybe you're thinking this nail gun looks fabulous, but the truth is I had a torrid time with it. There's a depth gauge on the nozzle to control how deep the nail goes, and no matter how much I tightened it, after almost every pail I had to reset it. It would regularly crack the pails, often when there was a knot nearby, and I even caught this happening on camera. The gas would sometimes not work, so I had to take it out and push the nozzle to get it going, and I've heard that in winter you have to stick the canister in your pocket for 20 minutes to warm it up. It doesn't have any warning when you're running out of nails, and if it fires without any, it gets upset, jams, and you have to take it apart. Oh, and sometimes it fires 2 nails at a time. I bring all this up because if you hire one, this is probably the model you'll get, but it's possible I just got a bad unit, or maybe the gas and nails just weren't as compatible as they said. It's super popular among builders, and I try not to be biased after just one experience, I just don't think it's the nail gun for me. If I ever buy one, it'll be the DeWalt, the Hikoki, or Milwaukee, which just run on batteries, there's no faffing with gas or having to clean the internals. The downside is that they're heavier, but for me that seems like a worthwhile trade-off. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong though. I'd say that if you're building a closed-board fence up to maybe 15 metres, there's nothing wrong with doing it the old-fashioned way with a hammer. For the counter rails, I did exactly that, as there was no way I was risking breaking the pails with the nail gun. I attached each end to the post and then put a nail in every few pails. And this brings us to the finishing touch, which is the capping rails. These are triangular shaped strips and give the fence a nice finished look, but their true purpose is to shed the rainwater from the fence and keep the end grain of the pails dry. I should point out that everything I've cut in this project has been treated with wood preserver, the gravel boards, posts, even the half flaps for the gates. The only exception are the tops of the pails, as the capping rail should keep them dry. I had to cut a few angles, but they went up really quickly and simply, and they just get nailed into the counter rail. And that's it, finito. But before we get to the cost, there's just one thing I want to point out. I didn't put a gravel board on the gates. I thought it might look a bit odd floating in the air, but I suspect that the bottom of the pails will rot more quickly than the rest of the fence. So if and when that happens, I'll rip the bottoms off with a circular saw and put a gravel board in, which will also be ripped down so the top lines up with the gravel boards either side. So I'm really happy with how the fence turned out, and I don't think I could have got such a bespoke style if we just paid somebody instead. That said, it took me around 4 or 5 weeks working on it on and off, so I definitely have a newfound respect for professionals who can finish something like this in a few days. My neighbour told me that he paid upwards of 3k for his, and mine's a bit longer with 2 gates rather than 1. My mum recently paid over 4k for her concrete and panel fence, so I reckon 4k is what mine would have cost if we'd hired someone. If you're balking at these figures, all I can say is, well, welcome to the southeast. So did I save anything? Well, I had a few things already. I guess the more DIY you do, the more leftover materials roll over from one project to the next, lowering the cost. Here's everything I bought for the fence and the quantities. The total cost, a bit over £1,100. So a saving of nearly £3,000, which is quite amazing. I could have bought all 3 of these nail guns and still come out way ahead. If I break it down further, the materials for just the double gates were around £70 to £80, whereas similar pre-built gates on eBay are around £350. And this all leads me to an experiment I'm carrying out. I'm planning on tracking the costs of each of the projects we do at the new house to discover how much DIY actually saves us and which projects give the best bang for your buck. I won't go into the finances on every video or project, but I'll log everything here and we'll check on it from time to time. Now maybe I'm preaching to the converted, but here's why I think you should take on this project. 1, you'll end up with exactly what you want. 2, you'll know how to repair your fence. 3, as I've shown, you don't need to be afraid of the challenges or of making mistakes. 4, you'll save a bunch. 5, you can justify buying yourself a nail gun, if you so choose. And 6, this one's a bit more abstract and philosophical. For many of us, our work lives revolve around the digital. We rarely get the opportunity to create anything tangible. So get outside, use your hands, and at the end of each day, you can take a step back and say, yeah, I did that. That's its own reward. See you on the next one.